One of the greatest goalies of all time. You either know him because of how good he was on the pitch or his special helmet. And for many football fans, it's because of the helmet. You see, Petr Čech wore that helmet for more than 10 years. Of course, before he picked this helmet, he already made a name for himself as a world-class goalie, already playing for one of the biggest teams in the world. But because of how iconic he made the helmet look, it's hard to imagine this guy without the helmet. But the real question is, why did he start wearing the helmet? What exactly happened, and why did he get so addicted to it that he played with it for more than a decade? By the time we get to the end of this video, you're gonna have the answer to all these questions. Also, have you ever stopped to imagine what this guy is currently doing now that he's retired? Trust me, his new career path is something that'll shock you. You see, Petr Čech isn't the first or only player to use helmets in football. Or, a better way to fit this context, the first or only player to wear something protective over his face or head. We have countless examples of players using headgear after getting a nose injury or any sort of facial injury. Harry Kane after he broke his nose while playing against Crystal Palace in 2016, Victor Osimhen after sustaining an eye socket injury in the Serie A, Cech Fabregas after injuring his nose while playing against Stoke, Robert Lewandowski after fracturing both his jaw and nose in an intense derby game against Dortmund. You get the point. Although it's not every time we see players wear masks or helmets on the pitch, there are some cases where players wear these. And without a doubt, Petr Čech is the most iconic. At least, none of these players wore their helmets for as long as Čech did, more than a decade. He wore it for the rest of his career. If you think of helmets for footballers, Čech is the player that comes to mind, although he isn't the first or last player to use a helmet on the pitch. So, the big question is, why? Why was Čech so different? And speaking of differences, Čech's helmet was not like the traditional helmet other footballers use. As a matter of fact, there are more rugby players using that type of helmet and not football players. Rugby players use this particular helmet so they can reduce head impacts and cuts during games. So why did Čech go with this? It's not like football is like rugby where you're going to be receiving countless head impacts. And remember, Čech is not even an outfield player. He's a goalkeeper. So what exactly made him opt in for this kind of helmet? And why did he stick with it for more than a decade, wearing it week in and week out? But first, let's talk about the period before the helmet. Čech was born on the 20th of May 1982 in Czechoslovakia. Football immediately became a huge part of his life, and at the early age of 7, joined Škoda Plzeň. Maybe now, you know this team as Viktoria Plzeň. And very interestingly, he started as a striker. He made the switch to become a goalkeeper when he turned 10. In 1999, he joined Chmej Bolzani. At the time he was 17. When he turned 18, he signed a 5-year deal with Slavia Prague. His first major win as a goalkeeper was when he went 855 minutes without conceding a goal. That was the longest in the Czech professional league. And by the time he did concede, he had stretched his record to 903 consecutive minutes. But where he shone was in the national team. He was so good that big English sides wanted him. Arsenal almost got him to sign for them, but due to difficulties with a work permit, the deal fell off. In 2002, he joined Rennes, and 2 years after that, Chelsea signed him for $7 million, making him Chelsea's most expensive goalie at the time, and Čech made sure Chelsea got value from spending that much on him. As a goalie, he quickly became one of the team's most important players. In Chelsea, he quickly hit his peak, winning the league trophy for the team twice in a row in his first 2 seasons. He also broke 2 major records, went 1,025 minutes without conceding a goal, the longest in the league's history, and also kept a clean sheet in 21 games in a single season. No goalie had been able to do this in a single season. Čech in Chelsea was the best goalkeeper in the world, or at least many football fans saw him like that. Čech was on a roll until something tragic happened. Something that not only slowed him down but changed his career forever. But wait, if you stayed this far, you're definitely enjoying this video, right? So how about you subscribe to Total Footy? I'm sure you don't want to miss any of our upcoming videos, do you? So yeah, smash that subscribe button and turn your notifications on so you don't miss anything. Thanks for doing that, now back to the video. As I said, something tragic happened that not only slowed down his momentum, it changed his career forever. But what I didn't add was that it put Čech in a life-and-death situation. Chelsea went head-to-head with Reading, and of course, Čech was in goal, all fired up and ready to do what he does best. It looked like business as usual for Čech, maybe another clean sheet match, but just 20 seconds into the game, things went dark for Čech. The ball spilled over to Čech's direction. He hurried over to grab the ball as he knew that was a 50-50 chance. One of Reading's midfielders, Stephen Hunt, was also onto it. I mean, quick and cheap 20-second goal sounded really nice. Čech was quick enough to get to the ball first, and just as he grabbed the ball and felt another thing touch him. Well, touch is an understatement. He felt something else hit him. It was Stephen Hunt's knee hitting his head. Complete blackout. Čech had a fracture in his skull. He was immediately rushed to the hospital for an emergency surgery. If they wasted any more minutes, Čech would probably not have made it. Even in the emergency room, nothing was certain. The doctors even had to remove bone fragments lodged in his brain. It's a miracle that these bone fragments did not go in deeper. If they had, the doctors probably wouldn't be able to do much in the operating room. But before we go on, there's an interesting fact about this game. After Čech got rushed to this hospital, the second choice keeper, Carlo Cudicini, came in as a replacement. But he also couldn't finish the game as he also got knocked out cold. He also got rushed out and John Terry finished the game as a goalie. Back to Čech. Fortunately, the operation was successful, the broken bone was replaced with metal, and to everyone's shock, Čech was back after 3 months, just like the doctors advised him. In an interview, Čech said that he has no memory of the injury. So yeah, it was a real blackout. The next time we saw Čech on the pitch, it was in a 2-0 defeat against Liverpool, and Čech was wearing a rugby helmet. Čech at the time was just 24 and had already no choice but to play with protection. Even if he wanted to play without it, the doctors and the club wouldn't let him. According to the doctors, another impact to that area could cause irreversible damage. That's something even Čech wouldn't want to risk. Even in 2015, when he thought about doing away with the helmet because it affected his hearing, I mean, the stadium is already a really lousy place with thousands of people yelling and chanting. Having something cover your ears is not gonna do you any good. Hearing would be difficult, and of course, communicating with your teammates would also be difficult. Čech just knew that taking the helmet off was too much of a risk that is not worth it. Permanent damage to the skull or brain is in no situation worth any risk. So just like that, the helmet became an important part of Čech's game and a part of his trademark. Speaking of trademarks, Čech and Adidas got in a little bit of trouble when he first started using the helmet. At the time, Adidas was Chelsea's official sponsor, but the helmet Čech was using was a product of one of Adidas' competitors, Canterbury. This was a big no for Adidas and Chelsea as that went against sponsorship agreements, so in a few months, Adidas produced their own version of the helmet that Čech could use. With that legal issue out of the way, Čech turned all his attention back to the game. His career still went on great. He still went another 800 plus minutes without conceding a single goal. Won more Premier League titles, and in 2012, helped Chelsea win the Champions League for the first time in their history. Saving 2 penalties in the final, 1 in the shootout and 1 in extra time, and by the time he left Chelsea to join Arsenal in 2015, he wasn't just a legend, but Chelsea's greatest goalkeeper of all time. In Arsenal, he spent another 4 years, saving the team countless times, while still wearing his iconic helmet. After his time at Arsenal, he retired. He didn't change teams or change roles in the club like many veteran footballers do. He changed his career completely. He became an ice hockey player. On the bright side, in this sport, he's not gonna feel or look different for using a helmet. Helmets are compulsory over here, but Čech knows how to spice things up. His ice hockey helmet has the logo of both Arsenal and Chelsea. This guy really loves these games, and it's a bit strange because both sides are London rivals. Right now, Čech is 42 years old and plays as a goaltender for Oxford City Stars. They play in the NIHL South Division 1 at Oxford Ice Rank, Oxford. And that's where we end for today, the story of how Chelsea's greatest goalkeeper never takes off his helmet. Or am I wrong for calling him Chelsea's greatest? Let me know who you think is Chelsea's greatest goalie in the comments. Also, don't forget to drop a like on this video.